All right, okay, so as you've heard already, my name's Belinda and I'm a current senior at Monte Vista High School. Next fall, I'll be going to Harvard University. So a couple of things. So first off, my topic today is going to be about the P2P, peer-to-peer microfinance summer program. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about that. But first, let's get some audience interaction. So don't be shy. Raise your hands if any of you guys have ever lived in an area like this that looks something like this. Parents, you can be exempted, but just students. Like, how many of you have ever lived in an area that kind of resembles something like that? So like a pretty poor province in China. Right? Just you or no? No? Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. Something similar. How many of you have ever been educated in a setting like this? You know, the wooden desks, the grimy walls, that kind of stuff, not very good bathrooms. Anyone? No, right? Okay, now compare this to what a typical high school in the Bay Area looks like. Now this is actually specifically where I go to school, Monte Vista High School. And so if you look at it, you can see here, you have the projectors, you have the nice tables all laid out, you have your tablecloths. If you look into the computer lab, same area, you see all these computers. Raise your hands. How many of you own a personal laptop, computer, whatever? Raise your hands, right? How many of you guys have an iPhone or an iPad or an iTouch? Right? So all of us are extremely privileged. We live in Silicon Valley, for goodness sakes. We grow up with all these commodities. We have running water in our houses. We have air conditioning. We have heating. And I guess part of the experience of the summer program is just kind of stepping out of that, seeing what is it like to grow up in an area that isn't the Silicon Valley, that isn't quite so well off. And so another question, how many of you guys have ever worked in a field like this? How many of you guys have ever done any sort of farming whatsoever? Weeding, planting crops, right? How many of you have ever done any digging at all, like helping dig a well? No, right? So the great thing about the P2P program that I participated in was that it was an eye-opening experience. Yes, it did kind of suck to have to take away your cell phone, to not have any access to the internet, to have no access to your cell phone. Yeah, it was kind of difficult to help dig a well. Yeah, it was difficult to sit out there in the sun and get bitten by mosquitoes and not have any, to be in the sweltering heat while having to dig and help farm. But at the same time, it was one of those experiences that I would never give up. It was one of those life-changing experiences that really help you figure out more about yourself and about how to serve the community. And so before I go on, I want to talk a little bit about the program itself. So I split up my microfinance program into 3 sections. So it began with learning about microfinance itself. And so you learn about Muhammad Yunus, you learn about the basics of microfinance. And for those of you that don't know, the basics of microfinance is that you give out microloans to areas that are impoverished. And in doing so, these people who really work hard, they can buy, say, a chicken or a goat, or to start their own business. It's a pretty small business, but after a while they start earning money and then they pay back the loan. It has a surprisingly high rate of return, which is 98%. It's very successful, and it was spearheaded by Muhammad Yunus. The next part of the program was actually experiencing things firsthand. Now, a lot of us have learned concepts in a classroom setting. We've read textbooks, we've listened to presentations, but none of us have actually experienced firsthand what is it like to go to a place that has no running water? What is it like to work in a field? We know, yeah, poverty is out there. You hear people starving all the time, but what is it like to see this firsthand? And I'll tell you, it's an extremely different circumstance. And so 2 things we did in Ningxia, which is the 2nd poorest province in China, was A, teach English. Believe it or not, a lot of you already have a much higher education level than grown-up adults in this province. And that's because they didn't have access to the education you do. They didn't have access to luxuries like computers and laptops. And so when we went to Ningxia, we actually brought them laptops, and seeing them touch those computers for the first time was amazing. We were also able to help work in the fields, like I said, help digging the wells, help weed out the crops, and it was an experience, for sure. And then the final section was presenting your experience. So in the final couple of days, we got together in our groups, we learned to work in a team, we had a couple of team leaders, and then you put together a presentation about what your experience was like. Because it's not just what you do, but why you do it. It's about what you took from the experience. It doesn't matter if you went to the Ningxia, if you didn't take anything from it. If your only thing was darn, it sucked that I didn't have a cell phone. You know, the whole point of the experience is to learn from it, and so we do have that time given to learn from your experiences. Okay, so actually, let me go back real quick. Before I get started, I want to share with you an excerpt from a reflection I wrote on the summer program. And so this is something I did use for my college applications, so I'm just going to go ahead and read it to you. On my first day in Ningxia, one of the poorest provinces in China, I was assigned to teach 4 young children English. At first, everything blurred together, but slowly their lives began to take on shape, to take on substance. Slowly, I began to meet each of these people as individuals, not just as poor children. George was the genius, intelligent, studious, and attentive. Bella was the friendliest. Andy and Kyle were sweet but shy. I began to learn more about them. Bella could cook. They all helped out around the house whenever there wasn't school. They all walked home. Bella loved peaches best, and slowly hope blossomed within me. On the last day, as they all piled beside the bus to hug me goodbye, as they all stood in a straight line to sing me the ABC song I had taught them, as Bella handed me a peach she had grown and picked all by herself, I realized that though I had become their teacher, they were my teachers too. And they taught me something a lot more important than just a language. They taught me to hope, because that is exactly what they do when they wake up and go to school every single day. They dare the hope that with hard work, maybe life can change, that it isn't impossible. I saw hope in the look of wonder on their faces when they reverently touched a computer for the first time in their life. I saw hope when they went to learn more English instead of going outside to play during break time. I saw hope in the unmistakable pride in their parents' voices when they said their children still went to school. These children, who lived such difficult lives, were much more admirable than I. They dared to do something I hadn't been able to do for years, to hope. How many of you guys have ever seen some goal, something you've always dreamed about, and said, oh no, I don't think I can, I'm just not good enough, that won't happen, and decided not to apply? How many of you guys have ever seen a prestigious summer program you've been wanting to apply for years and not been able to because you thought, I'm never going to get in, why apply? How many of you guys have seen some position, some club that you really wanted to join but thought, I'm not good enough? How many of you guys have seen a college like Harvard and went, I don't think I'm good enough, why apply? And so I think this is an experience that really helps you introspect within yourself and discover who you are. Because to be honest, I faced the same thing. When I decided to, at first when I wanted to apply for Harvard, I wasn't even sure I should. I mean, it's a 5% acceptance rate. Why would they accept me? I'm not as special, you know. I've never been like #1 Olympics. People who have been accepted into Harvard, it's not the same thing. I thought, why apply? But I guess learning never to give up is one of those lessons that this summer program taught me, and something that Mr. Wei was also emphasizing, never give up. Because even if you think you can't do it, even if some part of you says, oh no, some voice is telling you, why try? If you work hard enough, I think, if you make enough sacrifices, if you make enough of the hard decisions that suck to make, like giving up your iTouch or giving up your iPhone, stop going on Facebook so you can study. If you make enough of those decisions, I think anything is possible. And it's something I learned through this program. So to summarize here are a couple of reasons that I put together of why I thought P2P was a life-changing opportunity for me. And the first thing is giving back to the community. I'll touch on this a little bit more, but service is incredible. It's not just about serving the people per se, but also learning and acquiring the opportunities of a lifetime. So people think, oh, service means I'm just going to help these people and I'm not going to get anything out of it. But that's actually really not true. In the process of serving the community, you're not just helping them, you're helping yourself because you make connections. Something that I learned through my experiences going back to China, to those poor areas, was that I'm actually really similar to those children in a way. Yeah, of course, we're separated by oceans. Yeah, my parents earn around $200,000 a year, whereas they have way less than that. But at the same time, we share a common goal of education. While they're still struggling to stay at school, to learn more, to learn to read and write, at the same time, I'm really passionate about education too. I'm trying to get into a higher institution of learning, like say Ivy League college. and they're working for the same thing. It's not easy for either of us, but we do share a common goal. Additionally, taking leadership. So something that was really great about the P2P summer program was that we had groups, and you learn to work with people who you might not share similar values with, who care about completely different hobbies and interests, who don't believe in the same value system. But it was amazing because we took charge. We each had a couple of days where we were the group leader. And so seeing those different personalities come into play and adjusting your own styles was an amazing experience. Also earning service hours. By the end of the program, I believe you have around 120 service hours, which is an incredible amount of hours. And then finally, adding to your resume. It's kind of like a side thing. It's not half as important as introspecting, learning about yourself, but it is there. So I want to leave you on a final note here. Let's have a brave soul come and read what's on the slide. Yeah, anybody with a loud voice who wants to, like, raise their hand, go on. Anyone want to read for me? Yeah, read what's on the slide. Yeah. Nice and loud, yeah.
Decade after decade, Yaleys have set out to make our world better. We are looking for students we can help to become the leaders of their generation in whatever they wish to pursue. Selecting future Yale students is a combination of looking for those who would make the most of the extraordinary resources assembled here, those with a zest to stretch the limits of their talents, and those with an outstanding public motivation. In other words, applicants with a concern for something larger than themselves.
Great job. Great job, Reed. Round of applause. Nice speaking voice, by the way. But yeah, as you can see on the slide, this is an excerpt from the Yale website. And so obviously we're not going into these summer programs thinking, okay, I'm only going to do it for college. But at the same time, colleges do recognize that there is an internal transformation that does occur. And they recognize the growth that happens. Because you can't have these mature experiences without stepping out of your comfort zone, without stepping out of the bubble that is Silicon Valley. So just wanted to leave you guys with that note.